Good evening. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you had a fantastic day. Welcome to This Is the Day. My name is Medrin Nyambura. So there are a couple of things that are thrown around when you talk about entrepreneurship: money, time, and the biggest of them all, work-life balance. There are people who say that's achievable, but others say it's sort of an illusion because you can't really separate your work and your life. But today we'll get more clarity on that topic with two amazing entrepreneurs who are doing awesome things. I'm in good company because they're young people. Moses Ndura, karibu sana, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, karibu.
Thank you so much.
We also have Yvonne Rachel Njoroge, karibu,
Yes,
entrepreneur as well.
Yes.
Kindly tell us what field you're in.
I am in hospitality and golfing.
Okay.
Yes.
That's your biashara.
That's my biashara.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. And for you?
I'm a digital marketer, I'm a motivational speaker, and I'm a businessman generally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know that. So the CEO of Amazon came out with an article there. He said work-life balance is a lie. There is no such thing. What would you say to that?
There is some truth into it, mainly because, like, when I think of the hours I leave work, at times I can leave at 2 a.m., at 1 a.m. But, it's because I'm in hospitality. Maybe for him it's different. But for me, we close when the last customer leaves.
Okay.
So, yeah, but the balancing aspect, there is truth into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you, as a man, feel the same pressure? Because a lady during an interview will be asked, how do you balance family and work? But rarely a man asks that question. So do you feel the same pressure?
Actually, I would say that work-life balance for me would be sort of a statement that is not very clear, because work and life becomes one thing to me. Yeah, because I don't know, as an entrepreneur, you don't have a life separate from work. That is with the industry that I'm in. Because I'm actually, the phone is basically the main job that I do. I'm always on the phone or on the laptop. So I'm on the move while driving, while sitting, while in the house. Guys will call you even at 3 a.m. in the morning asking for something. So I think it is intertwined.
Okay.
Like work and life becomes one thing. And the idea is just to make sure that you don't miss out on the really most important part of life, over and above chasing money,
Okay.
which should be branded as the work bit of the life, yeah.
Okay. I hear you. So for you, when you're starting out with your business, was capital a challenge?
I can't say not as much, mainly because I was given in form of an asset.
Okay.
So, but also I also had my share of investment into it, but majority of it came, I was given. But in terms of capital, I always say, especially for the young people, you can always, come together as friends, or you can approach your parents, if they're able to. So I always say, don't wait until you're 30 or, until you're 40 to have your own business. If there's a way you can get capital, you can as well take that chance. Yeah.
Okay. She's mentioned family, and a couple of young people I've talked to are very wary about borrowing family money because of, if that goes wrong, it could go really wrong. But say you're to borrow your family money, what are some of the terms and conditions you'd need to make sure you don't compromise now the family relationship?
Actually, I am one person who has borrowed money from family. The very first time I started, I was in campus, and the business failed badly, actually. So it took time for me to pay back. But what had happened is that I had gotten money from my dad, who had also gotten credit somewhere.
Okay.
So the agreement we had was that I was going to pay the money inclusive of the interest. And the funny thing is that I had to wait too long to pay. The interest actually really accumulated, and there was a lot of pressure to my parent and all that. But I think the most important bit was that I was so convinced that I will be able to be successful later, even if that business failed, such that every time my dad called and asked me, when are we paying the loan? The guys are calling, and I would be like, I need more time, but I'm very sure we are going to do this. And both of us actually waited. He didn't have money to pay.
Yeah.
Neither did I, as after that failed. So I think the most important bit is, if you are borrowing money from family, I think it's important that you explain to them step by step of how your business is going. When it fails, let them understand it instead of putting them in the dark.
Okay.
And then they'll put a lot of pressure in you. But I do understand that some people may have a lot of pressure because probably your parent may not really subscribe to your positivity. And I would advise that maybe you saw somewhere else. Maybe if family is not the place where you can get the money, maybe, I don't know.
A loan, is that advisable?
It is advisable if the business you're doing has a quick ROI.
Okay.
If I would say that.
Now you're speaking in business terms. Tell the listeners what ROI is.
Return
On
ROI, return on investment.
Yes.
Return on investment. I usually think that most loans that are given by banks and all these institutions, actually the grace period is usually very short. Sometimes even there is no grace period. Yeah. So if you have a business that you're going into and the ROI is not very much, the projections are not that good, then I would suggest that you don't go for a loan.
Okay.
Maybe borrow from friends and family, guys who would, like I did with my dad, although he had gotten a loan somewhere, at least those guys were lenient on him because it's a circle, I think. Because if you take a loan from a bank and you start a business and it flops, it can be a really, really big problem.
Okay. And I think also the way you're saying where you have to pay immediately and maybe you don't have the money yet. So what would you tell the young person who's maybe thinking, you know how the government has this initiative where you come together and they give you money, but then it's not good money. Because if you're 10 of you and you're getting 300,000, it's 30K. So what would you tell them?
So maybe back to you is that for them to start as a group or individual?
No, the government gives it as a group. So this is money for you for biashara.
Yeah. And they all go separate ways to do.
Now that's up to you.
That's up to them. Okay, for me, I advise people to go separately, mainly because partnership, or I'm assuming if they all come together, those are 10 minds. 10 minds having different perspectives. Now, when it comes to decision making, you'll find, this person wants this person wants this. So it becomes, like a tug of war or something. So I'd always say, at least go separately. If you have this idea you want, I'd say go separately, you do your own biashara. Because at the end of the day, you'll find out of the 10, there's someone who's not, working, or there's someone who's not maybe up for a certain idea or decision. So it becomes, it can become,
tricky.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe you can say something about it. I don't know.
I happen to have grown up in the village, and you can't access money individually in the village, unfortunately. And even like for me, even the money that, if I were to mention the money that Dad gave me is really small, but it meant a lot back then. So guys who are in the rural areas or in the village, guys who don't have access to resources, that money comes a lot in handy. Personally, I tried applying a lot individually. There is that option too.
Yes.
And the conditions are too many, the requirements are too many, you won't get. But when you go as a group, you usually get. But I agree with you. It's very, very hard to start a business with so many people. Because the decision-making ones, there are some decisions you make on the move. Like on the phone, if you're an entrepreneur, people will call you and they need a decision ASAP. So if you are so many people, you have to sit down and discuss. My advice would be that if you are getting money as a group, before you even start, please lay down exactly what you want to achieve. Divide roles based on expertise, and then at least have some form of some form of solving issues as fast as possible. In a group, people will be able to know, so and so is strong in this, so and so is strong in this. So maybe those people can be able to address those problems when they occur, and not necessarily the whole team sitting down.
So some sort of structure, like a company.
Yes, like a structure. And I think it is best that if these guys are getting the money, that they discuss beforehand. you know what happens, when the money lands on the table, everyone gets ideas, and you won't even agree on most things. But if you know money is coming, even before it hits your bank account, discuss and lay down the strategies.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay, sawa. Now let's talk about money in this regard. Do you pay yourself a salary?
Yes, I do.
A clear one every month, that's what checks in.
Yes.
So there's a lot of, let's call them bloodlines when it comes to money, especially business money and personal money. Because should you have an emergency today, I don't think you're going to suffer, yet you have money there. And many entrepreneurs suffer with that. So how have you gotten to a place where you can pay yourself and sustain yourself with that money?
Okay. Let's say you said something about an emergency. Yeah? So let's say if I have my salary, but then the emergency requires maybe more of what I'm paying myself, what I normally do is I'll get some money from the company, but at the end of the month, I have to return it back.
Okay.
Yes, so I have to make a clear cut between company money and my salary. As much as it's my company, there has to be that line.
Okay. So who decided your salary? I'm curious.
It's me.
Let's just put you on the spot with that one.
No, it's me.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's a certain percentage of the profit, or how do you do it?
No, I just sat down and I said I'll be paying myself this amount of money.
Okay.
Yeah.
How has that helped how you run your finances for your company?
No, it's actually what I did was I told myself there is no point of paying myself so much money and the company is suffering. Because you'll find at times maybe your company requires, maybe a certain investment. Maybe, for example, landscape because of the golfing. So maybe we require to water the grass. So it requires a certain amount of money. So what I do is I'll tell myself maybe this month I won't pay myself, X amount of money because for me, my priority is actually the company, not even myself.
Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's the company, the employees. I actually pay myself last.
Now that's a good employer.
Yes. I actually pay myself last, mainly because there are people who work and they have families, you get. So as much as actually it's, once the company, everything is good, employees have to be paid and the bills and all that, and then me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some serious ethics. So for you, do you have a salary for yourself?
Unfortunately, not. Sorry, it seems like we are on very different divides.
Which is okay. That's why you're here.
Yeah. I'm fortunate to have partners in most of the things I do.
Okay.
So, and then we have like in the containers company, we have about 100 casual workers and about 10 guys in the office. So it's usually very easy. When a business comes through, we don't pay anyone a salary, especially the guys. It's a commission. And the commission is really handsome, though, if you work hard.
Yeah.
So when the money, whatever business comes through, everyone gets their cut.
Yeah.
And me, as the company, so I have partners. So we say this is the markup from, say, this business.
Yeah. Okay.
Or at the end of the week, we have, this is the much business we've done, this is the markup, something like that. So usually we decide, I think we lack of discipline there, but it's okay. It's actually because of the nature of our business. We plow back based on the business that is coming.
So you decide on the go?
Yes, on the go, yeah. Like if there's business that may come and I will pull resources from my private bank account and we pull the resources together with my partners and we do that. Once the business is through, the markups go back to each. Everyone gets their own markup and we continue like that. It's basically because we're in a very capital-intensive business. And so we can't just keep all that money there. It's like we'll be putting the money in the bank for the bank to use.
Okay.
Yeah, so when we have resources that we are not using, we usually just, guys get the money and we know we are disciplined enough to know that we can access the money whenever we need it.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. So for your partners, say a business comes today and you need, say, 2 million shillings, you'll all come together and give the money?
Yeah, most of the times we will do that. Okay, of course we have a reserve. When we exhaust the reserve.
Yeah.
When we exhaust the reserve, I'm talking about sometimes we will get a really huge business, for example, and maybe there is not even any deposit from the client. So we will pull the resources. Yeah. And so far, we've never had a challenge because even the bank steps in. You know, when you run an active account, the bank can step in sometimes. If we have a huge business and we can't finance the whole bit, then the bank steps in.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay, you've come a long way from a failed business in campus. Good stuff. Yes. If you have any questions, please text on 20316 or WhatsApp on 0786 316 316. These lovely young people will answer the questions. We're live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio, talking about entrepreneurship, balancing the money and time aspect. But also I'll be touching on some of the challenges you face, but much later. Let's talk about time. Do you track how many hours you work in a week?
No. I work the way he said. You're constantly working, even though you're not in the office. You're on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's continuous.
So there's no way to escape that. An entrepreneur will overwork.
You always work. Even let's say you decide to get a Sunday off, you'll always have your employees calling you or a customer calling you. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds nice because you're on the grind. But truth be told, has that affected you, that working constantly?
Yes, it did. I did actually for the first 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And then for starters, you don't notice because you've been looking for business and business is here.
Yeah.
So you just want to work. Then at some point you realize, oh my God, it's been a whole month and I've not even been home. And home is like 30 minutes drive away.
Okay.
You get?
Yeah.
So I had to start trying to, balance that, if I may say. Because you may not realize, because when you're working, as she has just said, even the day you decide you'll be off, actually that's like the day that everything falls apart, and you have to be in and you have to be called and all that. Yeah, so I believe it takes time to come and balance that or sort of know how to manage it.
Okay.
For me, what I did is that I started delegating most of the duties that, are trivial, like someone can handle that. Yeah, and you start realizing that it's okay to part with some money to pay someone. That's when you start seeing an organization growing, because you realize, I don't have to keep rushing to send letters. Why don't I get a messenger
to do it?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it eases as you go. But when you're starting, you have to be everything. You are the accountant, you're the manager, you're the salesperson, you are everything. But as you go, then you start having guys who can take up some of your roles, and maybe at the only point that you come in is where a problem they couldn't solve.
Okay.
And actually they will report. They will report almost. They will actually give you almost all the options, so that you just make a decision. It makes it much easier.
Was delegating easy though?
No, actually, just like what we were discussing on the break, how it's very hard to maintain a good employee per se. As we don't have employees, fortunately for us. Yes. Because what we tell guys is, the more money they make, the more money the company makes. If you don't make any money, the company doesn't make any money, and so something like that. But you see, you have to train them from the word go. So it's not easy to delegate, because most of the times when you first start delegating, there's a guy who teaches people, and he says that whenever you're training someone to do something, is that you have to do something, tell someone how to do it, then watch them do it, and then now go after you've watched and then corrected, something like that. Okay. The biggest mistake and what entrepreneurs face is that, as an entrepreneur, you always feel like you're the only best person who can do a certain task.
Glad you admitted that.
It is true. Yeah. So at that point where now you are delegating and you come and you find someone did something a different way, it's difficult to start appreciating that, they are growing, and if they really have to step into your shoes, then you have to let them be. And the funny thing is, actually, like currently the guys that we work with, to be very honest, some of them are much better than me in most things.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them.
It is true, because you'll find like, oh, how he handled it, I was like, oh my goodness, I don't think I would have hit that much. Much.
Yeah. But they say smart entrepreneurs hire people who are better than them, so that's a good thing.
Yes, it is true.
Okay. Did you go through that phase as well, where you wore so many hats in the business? At some point, you thought, okay, I'm going to lose it. Did you go through that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially the first 3 months, I was, trying to understand the whole system, trying to see what needs to be worked on, cut on the loopholes, accounts, finance, stock taking, even, if it's gardening, shopping, because, it's a restaurant, so you need to buy things. So basically, I was doing everything. And honestly, but funny enough, we always say the body adjusts, because now I know shopping is Tuesdays and Fridays. Stock taking can be done every morning, but that one I can delegate to somebody, and then later on I can review it.
Okay.
So things like that, yeah.
You guys are doing a good job. I'm so proud. There's also, let's use the context where maybe you work with a partner, either somebody you're courting or you're married to, and you happen to work together in the same space, then go home together. It's very easy to get everything so confused where you talk about work at home. So how do you find the balance? Say if, okay, that's a bad word, you hakuna balance. How do you make sure you still have your home life, but the business is still running okay? To the gentleman.
I've never worked with a partner, but actually one of my business partners works with his wife. And even previously, I've worked with a gentleman who was also working with the wife. And I remember just before, he was like 3 years ago, he was a guy we were doing containers together. And we were becoming so busy, and the wife was just at home. Because he told the wife to quit the job she was doing earlier, because it was not paying as good as our company was paying.
Okay.
So he had a lot of challenges asking me, do you really think it's okay for me to bring, wife to work? And I was like, why not? And he's like, I'll be seeing her every day, and then I go home and I'm seeing her, and probably we quarrel at work, and then we take that too. But then I was like, no, that is where separation of roles comes in.
Okay.
And this might sound chauvinistic coming from a guy, but you will always find a man feeling as if bringing the wife, as if they will be disadvantaged. And to be very honest, especially for that case, the lady brought a whole new picture. I remember when she first came in, she changed the whole office outlook.
Explain office, the decor?
We didn't notice it was dull and all that.
Okay.
And then she brought in we started having lunches with the team. She was like, why don't you guys have, she brought in that woman touch, and besides her professionalism, she brought the woman touch, and it just changed everything. And the funny thing is that they rarely met. They rarely meet,
Okay.
Unless when we are having lunch now as a team.
So she changed it for the better?
A lot. Most definitely, yes.
Yes, for the ladies. Okay. For you as well, would you be open to working with somebody maybe you're married to?
Yeah, definitely. If, let's say, in the future, when I get married, of course, I'd want, my husband to be part of it. Because probably there are things he would see that I wouldn't see.
Okay.
You get. So, of course, I'd bring him into the space and, allow him to help me make certain decisions and things like that. Yeah.
Okay. But you're saying there has to be the separation, to understand what you're each doing.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Because mostly, my thinking, I'm not a relationship expert, but I'm just thinking that if you start handling the same issue, both of you, every day, for example, maybe you are the ones handling finances, both of you, and there is no clear cut who makes what decision, fights will be imminent, obviously. And I don't think there is a way you can be able to absolutely, completely, like now we fought at work, or we disagreed, let me not say, we disagreed at work,
You had a
and then we get at home, and I'm still thinking, you really should not have done that, and you are my wife here, So I think you should divide roles.
Okay.
Clear-cut roles, and then having confidence in your partner that whatever the decision they make is right. And if it's wrong, you don't handle it from the perspective that this is my partner. No, you handle it from the perspective that, this was a mistake that we did. How can we solve it and move forward?
Okay.
Something like that. So I think they should, if you are partners, you should really have different roles, my thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're ready for marriage now. So carry on. You should be fine. So the new age of entrepreneurship as well is online business, right? And now those are the ones I really pity because you're on your phone constantly replying to a DM and all that. So is there a way to just shut off kidogo, find some me time? What would you tell people who do that? Because you have so many young people in the e-business now.
Yeah. I think it's important for someone to have a state of mind where you're relaxed. And okay, for me, let me just talk about, we work so hard, but at the end of it all, we'll die. You get? So you'll find you're working all the time, you're always on your phone all the time, you miss the most important thing, which is, family or, health. So as much as probably we're saying it's a bit hard to balance, I think you have to make a conscious decision on, there's time to work and there's time to be with family, as much as at times it can be difficult. So for those guys who are always on the phone, okay, it's good to respond to messages and, customers and all that, but also have a time where you're like, for these 2 hours, I can watch a movie or something, I don't know, or I can meet my friend or something. Let it be a conscious, decision.
Okay.
I would really want to answer that.
Yes.
Because I'm actually in online business myself. All my businesses, we market them online. I actually, when the very first business I started was a digital marketing company. I basically used to market stuff for people. I still currently run more than 100 Facebook pages for different guys.
Now, are you bragging?
No, I'm not bragging. I have a team, of course. So the question you ask, it's very true.
Yeah.
You see, when you go to Facebook and you're say talking to Family TV, when you inbox Family TV, you expect a response ASAP.
Yeah.
So there are some tricks that people use. For example, if you are alone, if you don't have a team, fortunately like me, then there are autoresponders.
Yes.
Yeah, like an autoresponder. So like you will acknowledge that you've received the message, and then maybe you can direct them to email or phone call if you have certain working hours. But the other advantage is, and this is what I would advise for guys now who have started growing, just add people. Like for example on Facebook is very huge. Most Kenyans don't understand. Okay. I hope most Kenyans can understand how big Facebook is in marketing. So add guys like co-admins, co-editors. Admin is, if I add you as an admin, you can remove me. But you can have an editor, you can have editors and all that. So what happens is, if a guy, I see people messaging in, especially guys who are outside the country. You see, if you're working online, people will chat you from Australia, from the US, from the UK, from Dubai. At least there's someone who answers.
Yeah.
And advantage for most of my businesses is this, that I have 2 or 3 guys at a certain page, and whoever answers takes over the business. So it doesn't matter what time of the night.
Which is good for them because of the commission.
Yes.
Want to
That's the
respond.
point, you see. So initially I used to handle all that. It was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But then when I got now a team that I'm not even paying a salary, the business they bring, that's what pays them. It makes life much easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, we are writing notes. We're like, okay. So pay commission. So we listen to just one more song because there are a couple of questions that have come in, and I'd like for us to have time to answer them. If you're just joining the conversation, we're talking about entrepreneurship, the balance between money and time. And we're hanging out with 2 amazing people, Moses Ndura and Yvonne Rachel Njoroge. So somebody has asked, hi, how can employees be motivated to fulfill business goals? How do you do it?
Appreciation. When they do something good, tell them you've done well. You can give them a bonus. You can treat them if it's food. For example, for me, what I do, we always have a set of menu for the staff. So probably I'll say this on next Saturday, maybe we can eat something different, yeah.
Okay.
But the main key thing is your words.
So verbally. Okay.
Telling them you've done well, that was good, I wouldn't have thought of that. So just encourage them. That's the most and important way of motivating someone.
Okay. Yeah. Also, another question. There's a gentleman who texted in and said, "Hi, I'm Jay from Kisumu. My wife and I began a juice business. By God's grace, by week 1, we had made 4,000, everything included. Week 2, 5,000. Week 3, 8,000. Ish. That's good.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's good, yeah.
And now we're getting into week 4. The issue here is that apart from buying food and buying a KPLC token, we didn't see much tangible things our profit is making for us. Kindly advise."
I would say that business is, he said they're on week 4.
They're on week 4, and so how they made the money week 1 to 3 was 4,000, 5,000, 8,000. But then they're paying the bills. But beyond that, they're not seeing any profits coming through, like tangible profits.
Yeah.
I would say that business is still very young.
Okay.
And I would advise people, when you start a business, stop looking into a business that will run for a month or a year.
Okay.
Look at long term. I can, if I were to talk to these guys, if you already have a business making 4,000 profit, 5,000, 8,000, you are on a very, very good trend.
Like you can cover your bills. That's a celebration here.
Within a short time, probably you'll be able to break even. So for now, I would advise that if indeed it's making that money, they can pull in resources from elsewhere.
And do it bigger.
And continue. Continue.
I like that.
Because what most people forget is that when you start a business, it's not just the first capital you start with. Actually, up to date, I still fund some of my businesses, as I had shared earlier.
Yeah.
There's a business that will come and the reserve that you have for the company can't. So even I have to maybe go to the bank and tell them, okay, I have this business, I can't fund it. Could you guys do something like that? So let them start sourcing money elsewhere and keep doing it.
Okay.
Keep doing it with a vision to make 1 million shillings. Why not?
Okay.
If they're making 8,000, maybe in 2-3 years they can be able to make $1 million per month, something like that.
Okay. Jay, because I know you're watching, I think take what he's saying and think of a bigger business, because sometimes a business will shock you. You start and you're like, okay, let's see how it goes. Then it makes money and you're so excited. So for you, how long did it take for you to break even with your initial capital?
Fortunately for me, the digital marketing business I started did not require much capital.
Okay.
I had tried so many things that used to fail. And I usually say that I believe it should, every entrepreneur, every successful entrepreneur I have talked to, they really failed so many times. So like for me, the business I started, I just had to have a laptop and a phone and internet. Okay. And then the money started trickling in. Just like those guys actually trickling in. The idea is to know that if this is the one giving me more money, I need to continue funding it. I usually say one of the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is changing their lifestyles too fast.
Exactly,
you are touching on the millennials now. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, you change your lifestyle too fast. If you start a business and you make 100K the first month, for example, then most guys will move house, maybe start eating different. The problem is, in my experience, that there's a time that the business starts asking again. Even after you start making money. Because I believe for every business, even for you, there is a time where, for example, in the hospitality industry, there is a high season. And the stock you used to buy is no longer enough. So you are thinking this is profit and you have to plow it back
into the business.
Don't change your lifestyle too fast. Maintain the house you are, the food you are eating, the car you are driving, if you're fortunate to have a car at that point. Maintain that for some time until there is consistency and you can be sure this money will keep coming.
Okay. You said you're a motivational speaker. Sawa. Somebody is asking, please ask the guests. Oh, Njeri. Hi, Njeri. You're saying, please ask the guests to break down how to begin on the entrepreneurship journey. So for you, in as much as you say it was an asset, you did begin your journey at some point. So maybe just break that down for us.
For me, I started when I was actually 16. So I would go with my parents, and they showed me bits and pieces of how to do things. And even when I was in university, I was still working. So the amount of money I'd get, I'd save, yani pole too. But I'd say if you find an opportunity and you want to do it, you grab it.
Okay.
You just find yourself in the mud, and then or if it's in the deep end, you jump in and then learn how to swim. Because really, you can't be perfect to start something.
Okay.
You still end up learning. Even right now, for me, I'm still learning my way. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't really be prepared for it?
You can't be prepared for it.
Okay.
There are new challenges that come in, and you have to be in it to understand it and to find solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. Let me get to another question. Hi, how do you handle familiarity from your employees, especially young entrepreneurs? Then you say, I'm a viewer. Ni sawa too. So how do you handle that?
I didn't get it. Could you...
So how do you handle familiarity from your employees? So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I worked at an ad agency where we would brozone with the CEO.
Yeah.
So it's very high, and
Yeah.
you get too familiar.
Too familiar.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
For me, I found it easier to make my team feel like we are all equal, we are all the same. I don't draw a line. I think that's, although it might be different with other industries, yeah, because like you'll find me sitting with welders, the guys who weld, and they have dirty aprons and all that, and I'll just sit with them and talk, because most of the time you'll be surprised the kind of information you can gather. And then when I go to the office, I'll act the part. And the funny thing that happens is that you find that the whole guys that are working in a company, you are all in sync. The biggest challenge usually comes, I agree, is, for example, when we have so we have an office where we receive guests, for example, in my container business. And so when we are receiving guests, you really don't want a guest to find a guy in an apron, in a dirty apron. So we start setting some rules. So this is the side for fundis, this is the side for the guys. And really, you just have to show them that we are not like saying you are of a low card or anything. It's just that, we have different roles. If the client comes to where you are working, you are the one who is in charge, you can explain. But when the client comes to the office and they are paying a check, let me handle it. Or the guy in the suit to handle it, at least something like that.
Okay. I'm thinking of your industry.
Yeah.
Clients every day, new clients, which means new business, and you have to be, I think most people are told you have to be kind to an employee and pray they don't take advantage of you. So how do you balance that?
Okay, for me, I don't mind the employees being friends. In fact, I really like it when I get to know, where they're from, like we can be able to sit down and chat. But at the end of it all, there are pros and cons to being friends with employees. One is, if in case of anything, they can always come to you and, you can come up with solutions. They'll be open to you when you're friends. But then, as much as it's good to be friends with them, when there's a mistake, you really need to know when to step in and be like, no, what you did was not right. You get. So it's always good to be friends with them. But when there's a problem, you also need to draw a line and be like, no, that was not good.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a very hard balance.
And it's a hard balance.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually is. But at the end of it all of you came because of the business.
Then what do you think of business owners or entrepreneurs who go to the other extreme, whereby they don't harass you, they don't mistreat you, they do right by you, they just don't have a personal relationship with you? Yeah.
I think for me, I won't even judge them. It depends with what they've gone through and the experiences before. Because probably they were too kind to somebody, but they didn't. So the trust was cut. And probably it didn't happen once. It happened 10 times or even 20 times. So you'll find some employers are actually very tough because in their previous, businesses or whatever, they were too kind to some people, but, things didn't go the way they were meant to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. It's okay. I'll allow you. Somebody said, please allow me to follow up with this one. After lunch, they need to go back to work, but they just laze around because they are a peer.
They are
They are peers with each other.
They are peers.
It's the same person who asks familiarity.
Yeah.
So after lunch, the employees just, sit around. It's 2:30.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, you see, I think that's where, just because I'm personal with you doesn't mean I can't be firm, like very, very firm.
Yeah.
For example, there is a time that someone should report to work. We have timelines. In all the business, every business has a timeline. There's a time that you have to meet. If you don't, and you being the guy in charge, you're the one who has to make sure that things are being done.
Okay.
So just because you have a personal relationship with these guys doesn't mean that you can't be firm. And from the word go, they understand that you are in charge, because when worse comes to us, you're the one who will take the blame. So you need to be firm at that point.
Okay.
But it's easier when you have a bigger team. So you have someone who is in charge of these guys, someone who is in charge of these guys. So you're in charge of the guys who are in charge.
Okay.
But when you're starting, then I believe from the word go, they should understand there is that balance.
Okay.
Actually, there is a question that you should ask where you start a business with partners, but these guys are actually your friends, and then probably they do something that is wrong. Or even me, I have done things that, didn't go very well with the partners.
Yeah.
And we always sit down and they will be firm with me. Moses, you did A, B, C, D, we really don't think it's fine. And probably I'll also say probably it was because of A, B, C, D, I'll try change, something like that. So I think it's, for partners, it's being accountability partners for each other, because both of you want the business to succeed,
to do well,
and for the employees it's the same. Like, they need to understand, yes, we are personal, yes, we are friends, but someone has to be in charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa. Another question. Hi, Jed. You're saying, hi, loving the conversation. What would you say are the helpful skills that one can do in regards to short courses that go a long way in helping to run a business without necessarily going for an undergrad degree? You said you can never be too ready, so maybe address that one.
Maybe for some of the courses you can take is probably just maybe a diploma in management, human resource. That one because you need to know how to handle people. If possible, accounts is something you need to do. Though, as much as, yes, education is important, you'll find even some of the guys who maybe our parents, some of them didn't go through education. They actually, went into business and they're doing it, and, they learned in the business. So if you can take maybe short courses like, management, finance, accounts, human resource, but it depends with, the field you want to go into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you say, Moses?
Yeah, I would interject. Actually, just last evening, I was with my dad somewhere, and we met this man who is very rich, like very rich, and we were discussing something. After we left, my dad told me that guy did not go past class 7.
Yeah.
No, these dudes, they depress me.
Yes, it's very true.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, when I was talking to that guy, he's one of the sharpest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
So I usually say that it just as she has said, it depends on the industry that you're going into. I believe that business itself is the best teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
The business itself, because for example, me, the course that I did in the university was IT, which helped me in the online business. But you see, one of the main businesses I do is selling containers. I fabricate containers. I actually handle sales most of the times, which really did not really go well with it. Was not very much with my training.
Okay.
I actually, when I'm motivating high school leavers who have not probably been able to join university and they're trying to start a business, I usually tell them, which is very true, there's nowhere that I've gone to close a business and they asked for my certificate. It's still lying somewhere in the cabinet,
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a question you had asked, if you would want me to answer that, because it goes with this.
Go ahead.
How you start a business. I believe that if you deep down believe that you can be an entrepreneur or you want to be successful in whatever field, in the business, in the business world, you have to be able to identify a need that you can solve.
Okay.
And most of the time, it goes with the skill set that you have, the resources that are available, and all that. But then, as you are starting, and I always tell people this, just deep down, believe you will succeed. Even if you know that most of the time people fail when they start, but just believe you will succeed. And every day when you're thinking, start thinking up how, for example, when I'm starting any endeavor, I actually usually even do the projections. I'll be making this per month, then I'll be plowing this back money. You know? So you're thinking on the positive, trajectory as opposed to expecting it will fail or expecting something like
the
that.
mindset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sawa. If you had 3 hours, we'd answer all the questions.
It's okay.
But my director is wrapping me up. Yvonne Rachel Njoroge, asante
Yes.
sana. All the best with your biashara.
Thank you.
I pray it goes well.
Thank you.
Mr. Many Biasharas, you've lived up to your name. Moses Ndura, asante sana. Thank you for coming through. To the people who I didn't get to your question, it's only because of time, but maybe I can give you, then you can follow up off air. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've learned something. See you tomorrow.